Hello, welcome back to my channel, Hasty Books. I'm Camila, and today we're obviously going to talk about more books. I'm doing a tag today, and I love doing tags because they're just so fun to make, and they get you talking, differently than when we do the normal wrap-ups and stuff like that. But I've been tagging loads. I'm still trying to catch up, and I don't take enough time to do these videos. So today I thought I would sit down and do one of the most recent tags that I've gotten, and it is the name game book tag. I think it's called. And I was tagged by the lovely Nikki at red.reads. I'll put her channel below and you should go and check it out. She's really good. And I believe that the person who did the original has deleted their profile, so I can't find it. But yeah, so credit to someone else for inventing this really fun one. So I thought this was going to be a really short and sweet tag to do because it's really simple. It's basically you take each letter of your first name and you recommend a book that starts with this letter. And I just thought that was really fun, and I highlight some books that I really enjoy that I may have not talked about before on this channel. So here we go. My name is Camila. You may know that already. It is only with one L, something that people in Britain struggle with. It's Camila. Obviously double A, but that was double the fun. So there's loads of books that I could recommend. And yes, let's get going with the different books that I recommended. So for the first letter of my name, C, I decided to recommend Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This is a book that was part of my favorite books of 2021. I really enjoyed this. We follow a trans boy who is part of a family of brujos and brujas, which is, witch and wizards, and a part of the Latinx community in the US. And there's a whole mystery, and it's YA, it's coming of age, there's a queer storyline. It's just, there's everything to love about this book, and I just love the representation of it, and it was really well done, across the board. I mean, not just the trans representation, or not just the queer representation, not just the Latinx representation. I thought overall it was a great book, and I highly recommend it. With the second letter, A, I decided to go with Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery, and I thought this may be a really easy one to pick, but I just love Anne. I just love the book. I love this TV show, Anne with an E. Gosh, everything about it I just absolutely love, and I think it's really, to me, all about the effervescence of the character of Anne. She's just so into words and into stories and into she's very passionate about her friendships and about everything, and I think that that's a lovely role model for I know for me as a child, and I read it, I was just I love her enthusiasm for life, because there's so much of being cool that's about oh, you're trying, don't try so hard and stuff like that, and Anne tries really hard, and she's a hard worker, and she puts effort into things, and I just love that. And I think even though it's seen as children's literature, I think it's well worth reading into adulthood. For the letter M, I decided to recommend The Mermaid of Black Conch by Monique Roffey. Double M, actually, Mermaid and Monique. So I read this last year as well. God, I'm only recommending books I read last year. So I read this last year because I'd seen that it actually won the Costa Book Award in 2020. And I absolutely love this book. It follows a fisherman in the island of Black Conch, and he's out fishing, and he makes friends with a mermaid. And at some point, the mermaid is caught by some white Americans who want to come and fish some really cool stuff. And stories ensues, and I don't want to say what happens because I think so much of this book is part of of the surprise of what happens, the magic and the folklore, and God, there's so much in this book, and it's really short, but it's such a great read. I absolutely adored it, and I really like the romance in it, and I like the post-colonial chat in it, and yeah, again, there's nothing not to love about this. I just adored it. Then with the letter I actually struggled a little bit to think of a book that starts with the letter I. Don't know why, it just really struggled. So I went to the list, of the books that I read over the last 7 years, whatever. And I found The Infinite by Patience Agbabi. And I actually have read it in the last 2 years, I want to say. Because I put it on my TBR after seeing Agbabi talk at the Edinburgh Book Festival. The Infinite is a book that literally encompasses so many things, and I think that's why I loved it. It's definitely a YA or middle grade, but there's so many other things like into it. So the main character has autism, and there's a few of the main other characters that she's friends with that have like learning disabilities, and I just love that representation and just the friendship and the way that they build relationship and the way that's shown and explained. I think that was really beautifully done. It also is a bit of like a mystery, a thriller about I want to say like ecology and like climate crisis, and it also has a fantasy aspect in it because the book is focusing on leaplings, who are kids born on the 29th of February, and the kids in that world who are born on that day can have the power to leap between years, so they can go back or forward in time. And so she goes off to camp and she's learning about how to do that, and I just love that, there's the fantasy and the echo kind of thriller and the coming of age very much, because they're quite young actually, the characters in this book. And I think it's going to be part of a series, so I'm quite excited for that. I believe the second one has come out already, but I can't find it anywhere, so it's in my plans to actually look for it. But yeah, a really, really great read, especially if you're keen to read something like if you like middle grade or YA. I think you'll enjoy this one. Next letter is L, and for that I decided to recommend The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I've read this book, God, I want to say like 8 years ago or something, it came out 8 years ago, but whatever, it was like in the last decade, kind of sooner. I keep recommending it because I thought it was so good. I actually have the second book, which I've never taken the time to read. I want to do that at some point. But yeah, I thought this was really great because of the themes that it explores. This is very much like a sci-fi novel where this human decides to sign up to become part of like on a ship on a mission in space. So she signs up and become a crew member on the Wayfarer. Is that correct? Wayfarer. Yes, that's correct. Rosemary joins the crew, the Wayfarer, and there are like mix of personalities, mix of different races as well, like across, but like nothing is like a big deal. Like it's very like soft in that way, and it's kind, and I just love that. I love reading those realities. Like I'm over reading things where everyone's always like horrible to each other. The world is sad enough, So I really enjoyed like that softness of this book, and it's very much about like finding your family, like the people you belong with, and chosen family and such like that. And I think that was really, really beautiful. This book doesn't have much of a plot. I think it's worth saying. It does feel like it just wanders, but I think that that's also the beauty of it, and we really get to live with the characters. And I think when I finished reading this book, I still remember the feeling of being like, oh my goodness, I think that's immediately after I finished it, I went to buy the second one. Because I felt like I wanted more, because I was so used to being with these characters in their just like everyday life on the ship. So yeah, a really beautiful read that is worth the detour, definitely. Finally, for the last and second A, I wanted to recommend All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This is a kind of war novel, but split over different timelines or different perspective, actually. We follow basically two children as they go through the war. One of them is on the Nazi side, and one of them, I want to say, is French. And I read it, I think I read it the same year that I read The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. And so many years ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, when I just graduated university. And I thought it was such a beautiful book. I recommended it to like loads of people. And I feel like war novels, like there were so many, and I've definitely kind of grown tired of reading the same stories, I want to say, often. But this one to me felt slightly different, and I really like the child perspective of it. I'm realizing I've recommended a lot of like coming of age and child. Oh God, I must be having one of those days. Anyway, to come back to All the Light We Cannot See is a very beautiful portrayal of growing up during the war, of loss and grief, and like the realities of living in that world. And there are some really, really rough scenes as well, especially toward the end, that I thought were horrifying, really. But I thought there was a really beautiful perspective on the war and on connection through war as well, like the connections that they made as children with the different people in their villages or their teams, and that they ended up making together. And I think that's what really is beautiful about this novel, is the way that it ties the two different storylines into one. Yeah, I think it's worth a read. I haven't really heard much about this book, whether people have like said that maybe it's a bad portrayal or if they've not liked it, but I know that back then I really enjoyed it, and I recommend loads of people who also enjoyed it. So I just also, yeah, wanted to mention it again and say that this is a book that I think really stayed with me because I was still talking about it many years later. So I think if you've not read it, it's definitely one that would be good to read, especially if you like historical fiction and potentially something based during the war, but like it's slightly different perspective. It kind of reminded me a little bit of The Book Thief in that sense, because it's coming of age and it's like a child perspective. Another book that I enjoyed. Anyway, let's go into more more recommendations. But these were the different books that I thought, with each letter there was a couple different one. Like for Am, I actually came up with like 6 different recommendations. One was Medusa, which came out recently. I really loved it. And the other one was The Map of Salt and Stars, which was in my videos of like favorite fiction books ever, or like up to now. But yeah, there's just, obviously I could go on forever, but those are the 6 books that I wanted to highlight that kind of fit with my name. And I really enjoyed doing it and doing like the research in terms of like wish letters and stuff like that. So that was really cool. For tiny people, oh my god, I hadn't really looked at who I should tag before this. I really should have done a bit more planning before doing this. I did all like the book stuff, but I didn't actually think about who to tag, which is always like the hard part for me with the tags, because I don't want to keep tagging the same people again and again. All right, so let's go with Elizabeth from Booking in Books. Yes. Let's go with Rosica from The Midnight Reader. I'd really like to see Jay from My Quarter Life Crisis do it, but hopefully she doesn't just uses Jay because that's quite short. Nyx from Nyx Reads, and last probably Cherry from Cherry Actually Reads. And obviously if you've already done it, I'm so sorry. Discard this invitation to do a video. But if you haven't, I can't wait to see your video. And also, if I haven't tagged you, please feel free to do it and let me know in the comments, and I would love to go see your video. This is a really fun tag. It's a great way to like recommend books, but also I think it's great. Like sometimes I feel like some booktubers, I have no idea what their name is because they never introduce themselves. So again, it highlights your name, and that's beautiful. So thank you so much to Nikki for tagging me, and also thanks to everyone for watching and making it to the end of this video. As always, I really appreciate the support, and don't forget to see you back. Bye.